3, 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Rojas.
Damn.
DJ horns are always like a crowd pleaser.
I just got blasted. That's awesome. That's a first.
Yo, let's start this. I'm gonna start off a story real quick, right? So how this came to be, because I've known of you, but I newly got put onto you. Shout out to Canon for looping us in again.
Nice.
And when they hit me, they're like, yo, we just met this guy. He's fucking really dope. He has this crazy story, and he's been shooting with Travis forever, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, he's been with them for like 10 years. And I started doing math, and I realized that I hung out with you, I think like 2014 in one random ass night.
Yeah.
And I had to, once we text each other, I was like, yo, did we? Or like, maybe? We like put all this shit together. That is the wildest shit of all time. And I got to tell you why, because that was like a story. I had came out from Iowa. This is probably my first time like going to Hollywood or going to LA to like do some LA shit, like try to be doing some LA shit. And I randomly ended up at this house that was like a creator house. They had like a green screen in their fucking basement. Shout out to whoever those people were. And then we were chilling there, and this chick was like, yo, I'm gonna go hang out with my friend. He's Travis's photographer. We're going to Travis's studio. And we're like, Travis Barker? She's like, does anyone want to go? And we're like, hell yeah. So we like rolled out. So we was like, cool, let's go hang out here. And we like went, and it was really his studio. And I think I'm from small town Iowa, like seeing this shit for the first time. I'm like playing his drums at night, and you were like mad tight, and you were like showing us all this fucking photography you had done with like Yellow Wolf and him, and just like talking to us. I thought that was the coolest shit, because I'd never been close to the industry yet, if that makes sense, you know? Yeah. And you were like in it, like super in it. And I was like, bro, this is so dope. You're just like, you get to shoot photos of like this fucking legend. Like, that's the illest shit. Anyway, fast forward to now. We're in the same space again, and we're
Here
talking.
We are.
I'm thankful for you getting on the show, bro. How have you been?
Thanks for having me, man. Good, busy.
How crazy is that, though?
It's pretty nuts, man. Like, it didn't click until you were like, did we meet? And I'm like, wait a second, 2014? I go, yeah, that's like shortly after I had, wait a second. And I was like, let me see this dude's face real quick.
Yeah.
I was like, yes,
it was just
absolutely.
one night, bro. It was one night, but
we
we were there till like 6 a.m. I thought it was like the coolest shit. I remember like just thinking about like how it gave me like a weird sense of hope of that the industry is like tangible. Like I felt like when I came in to be in that space or whatever, just to even interact with you, like just being like, bro, that's so cool. Like the access and the ability to like create content. I was really into photography at the time, and like being the idea of like shooting for someone popular was like a surreal thing. But to see you doing it, and you're like sharing all these really cool stories and just telling us stuff and like being super nice, I was like super inspired to go home and just be like, I gotta move to LA.
It's still surreal.
Yeah.
It's never not surreal.
Yeah.
It's cool though.
It is cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you get a little closer to the mic.
Yeah.
People will enjoy that better. I'm curious, like, you know, you've been shooting with Travis for so long, and I told you before, like, I like to share kind of the come up story and shit like that. So when, you know, where are you from? Like, tell me your story, because I'm fresh to this too. I'm learning as we go. I'm curious, like, how you got started and like where you're from and all that.
I mean, I'm an LA native, born and raised. Grew up in LA, been here my whole life. Grew up in a pretty bad part of town. Not a whole lot of access to anything creatively, you know, single mom, 2 kids. And yeah, man, like growing up, it was always a struggle to find something to do outside of school, because we weren't really allowed to play outside in our neighborhood. It wasn't safe. So my mom always had these photo albums she would put together for us, had all of our important moments, you know, all the baby stuff, all the school stuff. And it's funny because we'd flip through those and be like, that's not what our life is like. This seems so happy and like hopeful. And she's like, no, well, these are the important things that we choose to remember. And I saw it's the way that she would introduce photography to me that way, as like a way to remember things that matter. And that always kind of stuck with me. You know, my older brother was an illustrator, super talented. And I was just kind of like, what's my thing? I didn't know what my thing was. And 7th birthday, mom got me a camera. Rest is history. Like, she's like, here, you can start picking the things that matter to you and that you want to remember. And yeah, man, like that just kind of kicked it off.
Damn.
Ended up, been working and going to school for most of my life. You know, if you're growing up in that environment, you don't really know what's next for you, right? Like, a lot of our friends end up joining gangs. A lot of people get arrested. Some people die. You don't really know what the future is. You know, you're kind of like, I'm going to go to school, do the best we can to make our mom proud. Whatever happens. Yeah. No hope for any sort of creative anything. You know, it's not in your world at the time. And it wasn't until I found skateboarding that like the possibility of a creative outlet professionally became sort of a thing. You know, because it was a means of escape and a means of widening my worldview once we started like skateboarding, my older brother would like just, go downtown, tell mom we're going to, sports practice, we're doing baseball practice today or something. And we'd just
go skate. And
then we'd see stuff that we're like, man, the world's, like, mind you, downtown LA, all of a sudden the world's a bigger place, but it's bigger than what we were used to. And you start kind of seeing and getting exposed to a culture that shows you there's more out there. And I remember just throughout all this, taking, little kid taking pictures, but you start seeing skateboarding, seeing skateboard photography. And it was very inspirational to me to see like that there were people out there who had a job creating content, shooting something rad. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like magazine stuff or like this or that. It was like skateboarding. Like, that's a job.
Yeah.
And I always kind of like had like the hopes and dreams that I would one day be able to do something like that. And high school comes around, same situation. My older brother and I went to the same high school, started like meeting friends who had bands, going to after school little hardcore shows at friends' houses. And they're like, hey, you got a camera, right? Your brother says you take pictures, like come shoot photos. And I fell in love with shooting music because it was just such a different energy, and still looking up to the skateboarding idols, you know what I mean? Like that was still the goal. I'm like, one day I'm going to go shoot skateboarding or go shoot something like action like that.
Did you feel like, at that point when you were starting to sneak out or whatever to go skate?
Yeah.
Was it always like you were more focused on the image, or were you felt like you would become a skater? Like did you dream that you would like be like did you feel that like, most people I feel like go that angle?
I think I fell in love with skateboarding because of the non-competitive nature of it. For me, it was just more of a creative outlet. It was like, here's this thing I can go and pour all my energy into and work really hard towards a goal of like landing that trick or doing this thing. And like just the sense of accomplishment I got from that was something that I think a lot of kids in the same situation as I was in, like that's why one of the things that we gravitate towards skateboarding for. It's like, it's an easy yet painful way to get instant gratification or a sense of accomplishment in an environment where that's hard to come up on.
Yeah.
And so it was never about like trying to become pro or anything like that. It was just something that I felt I found my pocket. I played all the sports, I did all the things, and nothing, it was always too competitive, and I felt like it wasn't fulfilling to me. And then skateboarding came around, and I was like, here's this thing that has this whole culture around it and this whole aesthetic to it and this whole like self-goal driven thing. And I just fell in love with it. And then you start seeing all the different other creative outlets that are attached to it.
Right.
And then you kind of get that glimmer of hope that like maybe there is a future in that, not necessarily as a professional skateboarder, but in that industry.
Yeah, or just because I similar path. Like I really relied on skateboarding for like you do the sports and stuff, but I just felt like the community angle was so attractive to me, and being able to just like get down with school and haul over to the skate park and just be there till the fucking end of the day. You know what I mean? And you build all these friends, and some of the friends are trying new shit, and you're like watching people experiment with shit, or like you have the homie that would just start getting drunk mad early, like when we're little kids, and you're like, oh, that's weird. And like, he looks like a fucking idiot. I don't think I'm going to do that. You know what I mean? Like you'd see all that shit, but just you gain so much, I was gaining so much connection with people through skateboarding that I never really got. I wasn't getting with a lot of the friends I grew up that then started to go on to play sports, and just like you lose that disconnect because it became like this jock atmosphere that I like lost connection with. Not to like say that all jocks suck or whatever you want to call it, or all sports people that play sports. Right. But there was this weird like since I was interested in that, I felt like there was kind of a disconnect from me with a lot of those people that I lost friendships because of it. But the ones I was gaining felt so powerful to me. You know what I mean? I
feel like in hindsight, like I'm going to be 40 next January, or this coming January, and I feel like I think about it a lot looking back, and I say, a friend of mine was talking about it the other day, and he goes, I think what it was is that, when you're at those formative years of your life, you're searching for confidence, right? You're trying to build confidence. And for a lot of people, it's like, for some people it's school, for a lot of people it's sports, they like I'm good at this. I feel confident. Yeah. Now, if you're not the best at that, you're kind of left on the out, like feeling like, what's my thing, right? And I think skateboarding provides that outlet for so many people. Like, here's this thing that you can feel confident in, because if you put in the work, you'll just do that thing that gives you that sense of gratification. And now you can like walk a little bit taller, right? Knowing that there's something I can do that guy can't. Yeah. Right. And I think that we're all kind of secretly searching for that confidence builder at some point.
No, that's very
true. For a lot of people, I think it was, skateboarding was that thing. For me, at least, it was.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot of people that sat in that chair that have said similar things where that's where they got their start, myself included. Like, it's just something about it that brings it out, and then the creativity of it skating wise is so imaginative. Like you can really do anything. And then when you grab the camera, when you become the nerd, you start grabbing the camera because everyone wants to get their shit shot. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, right?
And it's so addicting. Like you want to shoot, shoot me, I'll shoot you, and you're like trading, but then you kind of find yourself shooting more than them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you like as you started like progressing, you're saying you're shooting these shows.
Yeah.
Because music's a huge part of skate culture.
Absolutely.
Like 100 hand in hand. Like
hand in hand.
Set the tone.
Yeah.
And were you starting to shoot the house shows and you started becoming that person? Like were you starting to become in the area like that person to go to, like where everyone, if someone booked a show, were they hollering at you to try to have you come through?
Well, I mean, like in high school, what it ended up being was, there were friends who would go to the El Rey, or like, like our high school was really close to the El Rey, and like they'd be like, hey, I think we can sneak a camera in there. Like, what are you doing tomorrow? And I'm like, oh, well, I got to be home for this thing. And, my mom doesn't want me out late or whatever. They're like, well, bring your camera to this show. We can sell our roll of film at the end of the night to this dude who will like sell it to this magazine.
What the fuck?
And I'm like 17, dude. I'm like, maybe shouldn't be there. You know what I mean? But I'm like, oh, cool. We'll do this.
Yeah.
And then it was addictive because, I mean, up until then, it's, still lifes, your friends sitting on a curb or whatever. But you go into a show and then you're like, none of this is in my control. None of it. Yeah. And this is pre-digital. So it's like, you got to go in there. Here's a roll of 800 speed film. God bless. Like, go handle it. Right. And it was crazy because you're in there and you're just, it was a different energy for me where I was like, man, like I really got one shot at this. And if it turns out, awesome. If it doesn't, well, fuck, I guess I blew it. Right.
Yeah, right.
But you get some of those images back and you're like, damn, that's really cool. Like there was that moment that I, I got it. Like I got it. Yeah. And it's addicting. It's incredibly addicting. And I fell in love with that part of it then too. But then at that time, none of these things seemed like viable career options because coming from where I come from, it's like, no, you got to go to school. You're going to go to college. You're going to either be like an accountant or a doctor or some sort of trade, a scientist. And you're like, I don't want to do any of that. Yeah. But that's why you go to school. You don't go to school for art. You know what I mean? Like that was the upbringing. And with all due respect to my parents, I think they just wanted what was best for us,
hands down.
But yeah, I mean, I felt, again, there was always that little glimmer of hope for something in the creative space. And then...
Wait, so someone was just buying the role after the show.
Like, so like the homie who was older would be like, hey man, like he had the gig to shoot the show. Okay. He didn't want to shoot the show. He's like, you like taking pictures, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, look, dude, I'll give you $50. You go, just give me the roll of film. I got you. And I was like,
just hoping that you were going to be good. Did they already have a sense that you knew what you were doing?
He did. Okay. Like he's the dude that I was shooting shows for. And so he's like, yeah, man, go shoot this. You'll see, you'll like it. And for me, it was just like access. I'm like, hell yeah, let's do this. It's awesome. Sick. So I fell in love with it then. And then I'm like, well, how do I make this my job? Can that be a job? Probably not.
But did you see your work get published? Like, were you finding it getting
a couple of times? Yeah. And I would look at it and be like, damn. And it would be uncredited. It would be credited to the magazine or whatever. And I'm like, damn, that's cool. Like he would show up and be like, dude, check this out, man. Yeah. Like, you see this? That's your photo. And I'm like, that's fucking cool.
That's crazy.
It has a weird sense of like, oh my God, like my stuff's printed. Like, oh.
Yeah. That's gotta be surreal.
It was surreal, man.
So then what as that, I mean, does that become like kind of a rhythm for you? Like you start shooting more shows were you shooting less skating or was it
No, I mean, it was a mixture of all of it. Like I always just shot anything and everything. I still kept like my just any like I would go skate and then see something cool, photograph it, come back home. Like it was just, there was no end goal to it. It was just for the joy of shooting. And finishing high school, I was kind of done with it. I didn't want to go to college. I had really good grades. Everyone's like, you should really go to college. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I get there. And they're like, my dad was like, you should go be a computer scientist. I'm like, that does not sound fun. And I remember I was like, all right, I got a scholarship to Loyola Marymount University. And
where's that at?
It's out here in Marina Del Rey.
Okay, word.
And I was like, okay, cool. Like if I don't, it's not going to cost anybody anything. We'll try it out. Go in there, computer science major, lasted all of 3 days, dude. I'm like, I'm not a math person. And I'm like, this is not it for me. I don't want to do this. So I felt kind of like defeated because I'm like, here I am in this environment where, again, my worldview just gets a little bit bigger because I come from LA proper, super sheltered. And now I'm like in a university and there's people from all over the world at this place. And I'm like, damn, all these people have these goals and they're driven. And I go, I'm just this like skate kid in this university with and
that degree is like what majority of them there wanted to do. Like they have some sort of major interest in it.
And then I ended up figuring out there was this multimedia program. It was like the first time they were doing it. They're like, basically, you can attach any of the arts into this major. So if you want to do photography, fine art, jewelry making, sculpture, whatever, we will give you the platform and do it. And at the end of your 4 years, we'll see how that collectively combines into. And I was like,
sick.
So I can do whatever. And they're like, yeah, I mean, you still got to get your core shit taken care of, but you can come in here and like do all the art things. Find the thing that you like.
Can you imagine if that's how they pitch it? You just come do all the art things.
It's kind of how they did pitch it. They're like, here, we're trying this out. It's a new major, but the art department is open to you.
So camera access, or what were you?
So I came in there and I was like, photography, right? I mean, the one thing that had always like been the mystery to me was the dark room, right? Because up until then, film out, pictures back, cool, awesome, and that alone is magical, right? I've always been in love with the idea of what photography is and that magical element of capturing that moment, right?
Yeah.
But then, like my first photography class, they're like, hey, you can get a work study program and actually work in the dark room. And I was like, well, that sounds awesome. I'll do that. Sure. And they're like, yeah, you have access to the lab whenever you want. And I was like, all right, cool. But I don't know what I'm doing in here. And they're like, well, sit in on a few classes. And then because all the photo classes would book up super fast.
Right.
So just from the nature of being there, man, I got my first exposure to the dark room. And that's when shit, like, I was like, I'm done. This is what I'm doing forever. Like, I don't know how, but this is the thing. Like, printing your own pictures, it's some weird science magic, man. It's an amazing experience to watch your photo that you took just
come
materialize,
to life.
man. So then I started, like, I took all the photo classes I could. I lived in that photo lab for 4 years. I got to meet so many professors who just would, like, they saw how into it I was. They were like, you really like this, right? I go, yeah, I want to learn how to print color. I want to learn how to run the machines. And they're like, yeah, man, like, that's great that you're here. So I was just like the photo junkie, like wrench monkey in there, like working all the machines, printing day and night, taking all the art history classes, everything is kind of building my portfolio of things to empower my photography. Like anything I could take to learn, and I was doing it.
Soaking it up. Was there anyone else that was like in that program that was kind of seeing it or taking advantage of the space like you?
I don't think like me. Like, I mean, I saw like a lot of people were like, yeah, I want to paint. There's a lot of people who were in the painting program or drawing. And I was like, that's cool. Like, or printmaking. And I'm like, I'm over here in the photo lab. Like, this is where I want to live.
But you weren't having like developing like a peer group where you were collaborating or finding, or was it just the teachers?
I mean, so it was mostly the teachers because I was there so much. But I mean, the peer group was definitely like, we'd cross. It was like maybe 12 of us that were in this program. We'd cross paths, and like people would bring their like painting into we'd have like these group critiques, like like the painting guy would bring his paintings, the photo guy would bring his photos, and we'd critique openly on everything, which is probably one of the biggest benefits of school is that critique environment. But it was cool to see how other people were pulling or focusing on their specific fine art and the things they were bringing to it. And again, sheltered guy over here, like just hearing other people's experiences and what they're bringing to their work, you started to feel less alone. Because that was always a thing for me, was growing up. So I always felt like there were very few people who would understand like the situation of how we grew up,
right?
And it wasn't until being in college where you see people from all around the world who are like very similar to you that you're like, oh man, like you're not alone, right? And art was this thing that kind of bonded us all. So there was a very tight group, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And throughout all this, I mean, still skateboarding, still like doing the thing, which was cool. Doing a lot of photo assisting, still shooting like, shows whenever I could, but focusing on school. And that, I mean, I'm grateful for school because it led me to my first career, which happened to be in skateboarding.
That's crazy. Awesome. Wait, so what, like, was the photo assisting jobs, was this like just random things you were finding on in ads, or were you like getting hooked up through school? Like it was actually through professors, because the professors would see that I'd be in there and they're like, hey, I got a gig. Oh, cool.
Shooting appliances for some magazine. I'm like, appliances? And they're like, there's a lot of lighting work that goes into that. And I was like, all right. He's like, you should come along.
Sick.
Go along with them, and you're like, oh, like you start learning about lighting in the real world and like actual like commercial photography, and it was a great experience because you only learn so much in a studio environment at a school. Seeing it in the real world is a whole different animal, and so it was cool to experience that and be exposed to that by these professors, which was awesome. I mean, they all taught at Otis, which is an art school that was like kind of across the street from LMU, so they all had like this like art outlet where they were like strict art teachers.
Yeah.
Then come over to LMU and do like some side teaching gigs. So I was like, I'll tag along wherever you guys are going. I want to do it. Got a lot of exposure to shooting for magazines that way, shooting, you know, anything and everything, product photography.
It was like a massive crash course. Like you were soaking
you know,
it
like,
all up
and it was there available to anybody, but I feel like just the thirst to like learn more made it accessible to me. Cause I was like, I want to learn how this works in the real world. I want to make it my career. How?
Right.
You know, I'm like, you're a teacher. You're not a photographer. You're a photographer, but you're also a teacher. So clearly what I'm seeing here is that it's hard to make a living off of this. And they'd be like, absolutely. Passion first, career second. You got to love it. And you got to love it enough to like, you know, do the work.
Hands down. I love it.
I mean, like, so it made me worried because I was like, what am I going to do when I graduate from here? Right. What's my job going to be? And at one point we were being asked to put portfolios together. And I was like, well, we need to get a website together. And this was back like early web days, Flash websites, all that.
Hell yeah.
And they're like, well, this guy will charge you $3,000 for a website. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm pretty sure I can learn how to do that and do it myself.
Right.
Learn how to build websites, built my own website. Sure enough, my first job out of college was as a web designer.
All this work on photography.
My hardest to stay away from math.
Yeah.
And my career becomes web designer.
That's crazy.
Which I'm like, hey, look, it was cool and it was very profitable out of school.
Yeah.
But it's like, I want to do something creative and this just wasn't it. But I'm like, I can't expect to just jump into the creative. And if I really want it, I'll just keep working towards it.
Right.
And Tracy Robinson, I'll never forget her. This wonderful woman that came to our school to talk about careers in web design.
Yeah.
She and her husband have a company called Watson DG. They do like all the movie websites for like Warner Brothers and all that, and beautiful work. And she comes over and she's like, hey, I want to talk to you guys about careers in web design. And I'm like, this sounds so boring. And she goes afterwards, she's like, hey, what are you into? Like, what do you do? And I go, I draw, I skateboard, I'm a photographer. And she's like, a job in the skateboarding industry would be great for you because it's an open environment. It's fairly loose. The culture is great. And you can bring all the things as a multimedia major, all the things that you can do. I'm sure there's use for it there. And I'm like, well, obviously that'd be great. But I mean, how do you work in skateboarding? She's like, let me set up an interview for you. And I was like, no way. I have an interview at DBS, which is like, I was wearing DBS shoes for forever, like iconic skate shoe brand. And I go and have an interview there for like a web designer position. And I got the job. And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like this much closer now to like the dream, the source, right? And I was like seeing my idols walk through the hallways, like all these skaters I grew up watching. I'm like, they're just there. And I'm like, dude, like this is awesome. Like I'm working in skateboarding. I'm not a photographer, but I'm in the space. And I'm working with the people. Closer. And you'd see people like Grant Britton, Skin Phillips, Atiba, like these dudes would walk through and you're like, oh man, okay, they're here. Yeah. The dudes that I've been looking up to in all these magazines, they're here. They're walking the hallways like, man, like I want to do that. But very quickly learned that the skater photographer relationship is an intimate, close one. And I respect the hell out of that. Like dudes like who they work with and that's their guy. And it's a very like trust relationship. And there's a lot of similarities in that between music photography and like the skate photographer relationship, the trust factor, which is my first exposure to that level of trust, right? And so, I was like, well, I'll shoot whenever I can, whatever I can. They're like, well, we need, lifestyle photos. We need product photography. I'm like, I'm your guy.
Oh, so this was like the company ends up
part of the gig. They were cool. they're like, you do photography stuff? Great. So you can do all the web stuff, but you can also handle the photo stuff? Sick.
But what web stuff? Like what? Like designing the interface?
Yeah, but it's a full interface, building websites, like the whole thing. And then it was like, oh, product photography, cool. He can handle that. Lifestyle photos for catalogs, he can handle that. And I'm like, I got you. I'm your guy. Like just I'll do grinding. It. Like I need to do it because I need to keep the work going.
Yeah.
Still shooting shows on the side on the weekends, shooting like for friends, like just keep shooting. Yeah. Keep shooting, right? Yeah. And then I started to see like the photo element of what I was doing take over and become more of like the thing that I was like wanting to do and getting opportunity to do. So the web thing started to kind of trickle away and I'm like, okay, I'm getting there.
And the company was cool with like
they were cool with it. Every place I've ever worked has been so cool with it. And I started understanding the grind of like, look, to like be a photographer as your career is incredibly difficult, takes a lot of luck, and takes a lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Like you really have to commit to it and not give up on it, because if you really love it, you'll keep finding a way to like do it until it becomes the thing that you do. And moving on from DVS, I ended up getting a job at Burton, the snowboard company.
So sick.
Same thing. I was like, hey, I also do photo. I can do this. And they're like, yeah, all right, we got that handled, but we'll see. And I'm like, okay, whenever you need it, I'm here.
Yeah.
Keep putting yourself out there.
Were you trying to build so you came in again with Burton on web?
Yeah, same thing. Yeah.
So like if you're in that department, like Burton, to me, it's like Burton's such a massive company.
Yeah.
And obviously growing every single year. But at that time, was it where you were just shoved into an office spot away from people, or were you able to like slyly like go to the break room and try to fucking connect with like whoever it may be that has the access to,
No,
you know what
man,
I mean?
like the culture in action sports, thankfully, is very inclusive, and it's very like inviting, and like it's a creative space. So with Burton, there was a clothing company called Analog and a shoe company called Gravis, and they were based out here. Burton's based in Vermont. And so out here was like a family. They're like, we have this guy who's like our creative director, this guy doing this. And it's like, okay, cool. And it's like, hey, so like, hi, I'm Daniel. I do this, that. I design, I do photography. And they're like, okay, dude. Yeah. And I'm like, no, like, give me an opportunity. I'll show you. And it's just the process of like getting to the point where you go like, hey, you do this stuff, right? And I'm like, yeah, like, all right, let's see it. Put in the work, start doing it. Yeah. And like always say yes, right? Like always be like, yeah, I got it. I can do this. And sure enough, then it becomes part of the title. He's like our digital creative director is what it becomes, right? He's like, he's guy handles all of our digital content. At that point, content creation started becoming a thing, and they're like,
and it was digital.
At that point, it was digital,
right?
Which the jump to digital for me was so funny, because like at DVS, I was still shooting film, and I wanted to jump to digital, and I was like, I don't know where to go. And Jason Searcy, a friend of mine who worked there in the apparel department, goes, what's wrong? I go, I'm been shooting film and I want to jump to digital. I don't know what to do. And he's like, I got you. Hold on. And I go, where's it? And he gets his phone and he calls Atiba, and he goes, hey, I got someone on the phone for you. And the dude's so nervous. I'm like, hey man.
You just talked about how you walked through the hallway and you're like, that's Atiba. I'm in the spot.
He's like, what's up, dude? And I'm like, hey, Atiba. I go, hi, big fan. Like, you're such a dork. Hey man, big fan. I'm like, I'm trying to jump into digital. I don't know where. He's like, Canon, dude. Like,
really?
Go Canon. And I'm like, done. I go, I'm on Canon now. He's like, stick with it. He's like, Canon will always like take care of you. Always.
Canon's
the best.
Gonna love this part of
dude,
the podcast.
It's like funny and sort of corny, but it's very true. Like,
dude, I know.
It's like all right. I was like, yeah, been on Canon ever since.
Atiba was just on the show, and that's
that's rad.
His transition to it, and how proud he is of being a part of Canon too. Just the access to the gear,
dude. Like it's so he's like, yeah, you got to stick with Canon. And I was like, then from that point on, it just became Canon. Like Canon was like my that's my brand. That's what I'm using.
You? I mean, you had to been tripping. Like if you're looking up to someone like that who's doing the job that you
who gives you that, like, hey dude, like you gotta stay with. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, of course, sure, absolutely. Like, that's what I'm using now, so that actually makes perfect sense.
Right.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, man, cool. Let me know if you need anything. Bye. Like, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh shit, like that
Straight
was crazy.
To the bank, grabs cash, goes and buys whatever it is.
Exactly. I was like, done. And that day, I'm like, well,
yeah, got it,
like done. Rest there is history.
So when you become that position, what'd you say the title was called?
Digital creative director.
So tight. That's at Burton.
That's at Analog and Gravis.
Analog.
Yeah, Burton.
So then what kind of work were you doing? Like,
so like, I mean, social media started becoming like a thing where you had to focus on like posting and all that. So it was like, events. Anytime any of the athletes would come to the office, getting content there. We would like sponsor. There were bands that would be sponsored and stuff. So shooting like it was great. Right. Like, I get to literally do all the things that I enjoy doing, and I have the freedom to do it here. Like they're like, you go create content. Like we have a contest. Oh, we need a video for that. You got that? Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Like sick. And I'm like, okay, this is great. Like I don't know if there is another industry that would be that open
to just you sending it and seeing
like,
if it works.
Like these are all the things that you say you know how to do. Let's see it.
Yeah.
And to give you the opportunity to do it, right? And thankfully for me, it worked out because everyone's always been stoked on it, which is great. But it's a grind because, I mean, that's not the job you signed up for, but now your responsibility list got like 3 times long.
Well, yeah, you're low-key doing like four people's jobs.
Which for me, it's I hate being bored. And for me, it's like the more I could be doing, the better. Because I feel like all the things empower the one thing. Like if I'm designing a t-shirt, something about that process will trickle into some way that I shoot a photo. Like, I feel like there's always a way to funnel all the things that you can do into the thing that you care about the most.
Yeah, true.
Like, it's just the way that I operate.
Yeah.
Like, and I noted, I took that away from like art history lessons a lot, because you'd see art history stuff and be like, oh, like the way that the classic painters would paint. I'm like, you know, how can that influence my photography, or how can that influence my lighting, or seeing lighting differently that way? Like, I just always geeked out about that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that'll go a long way too. And also, like, if you're doing like shirt design, but also you're shooting photography, and then all of a sudden you're starting to think differently. You're like, okay, wait, what if we shot it this way? That would literally work perfectly for this campaign or this idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so, I mean, it was always a thing. And I'm always working towards that thing of just being photography being the thing. I wanted to be a photographer.
Right.
Like, but again, it's like, you know, who out here makes a living on solely photography? Like, I mean, now yeah, like now things are different, right? I mean, the accessibility to things, the outlets for things, the markets for it are so different now. Back then it was like so like elusive, you know,
and much more affordable too.
Yeah, you know, and I feel like so during all that time, it's like, it just seemed like this pipe dream. You're like, dude, it's not possible. But just stuck with it, and would still, like, you know, passion projects, shoot for the love of shooting constantly.
Yeah.
I ended up moving on from Burton, and was over at Alpine Stars.
Okay.
Which again, it's like the first thing I look at any job I would go to is like the photography element, and be like, well, these guys are in a whole nother, like, F1 photographers, man. Like, it's a whole nother breed of animal there, right? But then seeing that and going like, all right, cool. Where there's just learning about all these different facets of photography in these different industries. But I was really unhappy. I think I reached that point where I was like, I don't feel like I'm creatively where I want to be. Like, I'm just keep jumping from like place to place, doing these like important things in the design space, but like not the thing that makes me happy.
Yeah.
And my old boss from Burton at the time was consulting for Travis. And so he gives me
what? Like
for Famous Stars and Straps.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I was like, for what?
And so I got a call one day, and he's like, hey, are you good, dude? And I go, nah, man. I feel burnt out. Like, I want to do this thing, and I don't think I'm not able to do it here.
But what do you mean by that? Like, you mean like you want to, because were you being brought in for web again?
I got brought in for same digital creative director.
Okay,
like,
cool.
You're the digital content guy.
Yeah, gotcha.
So you handle like the web content, and anything that ends up on the digital space, that's on you.
Yeah.
So photos, video.
Which is exhausting to think about.
It's exhausting.
You're just doing this the
and
whole
it's
time.
exhausting if you're doing it for something that you don't really click with.
Right.
You know, because then it becomes a job. It's not something that you care about as much,
Yeah.
right? And he's all like, I got someone I need you to talk to. I think that there's a job opportunity for you with someone who I think you'll really click with, who could totally use all the skill set you have, and you'd be happy doing it. I go, who is it? He's like, I can't tell you.
God damn it.
And I'm like, well, how's this supposed to work? He's like, take the phone call.
Yeah.
Get a call one day. Hey, this is Travis Barker. And I was like, pause for a minute. And I'm like, yo, like Blink-182, Travis Barker. I'm like, oh, this is about Famous. It has to be about Famous. He's like, hey man, we should come down to my restaurant. I want to talk to you about this possible job opportunity. I was like, all right, yeah, cool. And I was like, what in the hell is happening right now? Like, I'm really about to go talk to Travis Barker about a job opportunity. All right, cool. And I get there, and it was, for Famous. And he's like, you know, Famous is my brand. I've independently owned it for X amount of years at the time, which, I mean, maybe it was like approaching its 15th year at the time. And,
damn, it had been around that long?
Oh, dude, since 99.
Wow. Fuck, I did not realize that.
So like, and then he's like, you know, this is my brand, and it's like, I am very hands-on with it, and I want the right people working with me. It's like, Kevin highly recommends you. You do a lot of shit that I think we could utilize. Like, are you down? And I'm like, working in the music space, getting to design and work with a bunch of rad people, doing all like creative stuff under the guidance of this dude who is super hands-on and who's an icon. Like, yeah. Say less. Absolutely. Like, I'll take that gig.
Right.
And it was like the first job that I feel that I've had where it truly was open to like any idea, anything that you can contribute was so welcome.
Right.
It was like, hey, if this can be done better, let's hear it. Hey, if you have an idea for this, let's hear it. It was so collaborative and so open and creative. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, I can literally do all the things that I love doing in this one place, and it has a place
and
here.
It's things that inspire you.
And it's things that inspire me. And I'm like, and I'm at that time then still shooting music on the side, And then come to find out there's events that, you know, Famous would put on. Like Travis would go and do like a DJ gig in Vegas. And they're like, hey, you should come. Capture the content, you know? And I go, yeah, of course. And I remember Travis was doing these DJ drum gigs where he would DJ and then drum to the stuff he was DJing.
Hard.
Mind fuck.
Yeah.
Crazy. Like the first time out, I was just so like distracted just watching. And I was like, click. Yeah, sorry. Like shit. Right. And I remember being like, I got that high again of the decisive moment of shooting an uncontrollable circumstance.
Yeah, you're
right?
back at the El Rey.
I'm back at the El Rey, and I'm like, this is awesome. I'm shooting this iconic drummer who's incredible, and anything I had seen of Travis up until then was just like a video, whatever, right? You see it and you're like, oh yeah, he's really good. You don't really understand how good he is till you're standing like a foot away from him, watching him do what he does.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Right.
I'm like, hey, this is a beast, right? And being able to capture that, I was like, I felt as fulfilled as I've ever felt before. I'm like, this is where I need to be. I'm photographing a subject and a thing that makes me feel that full circle complete. Like I need to be shooting music. It's like my happy space, you know? Like you put that camera up, and behind that viewfinder, like nothing else matters.
Right. And
I've never felt that sense of peace before. You know,
so
and anything that I've ever shot before, like shooting live music is the thing that has brought me so much peace, because it's as chaotic as it is, I'm able to hyper focus and everything just gets so quiet and so focused, and it just makes me feel so good to shoot like this one. Like it's never going to be like that ever again.
No.
You know, you have a model in a studio, you can light that a couple different ways, you can shoot that shot a couple different ways. Live music is as momentary as it gets.
It's documenting.
Yeah. I'm like, I feel like a war photographer. Like we're going to battle.
Yeah,
like we have to show, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, people like the content, people like the photos. One thing leads to another. It's like, hey, you want to come to some Blink shows? And I'm like, you know, I've been on tour before with smaller bands and stuff, and I shot live shows, but like Blink scale.
Right.
And I don't think I've ever experienced that level of energy from a band and from an audience. And that was a whole nother thing that I had never experienced before. Like my world just kind of like exploded another degree there. You know what I mean? Like,
so did they just stop like the work you were doing at the company?
No.
So you're on the road, but also having to do all the other shit.
Absolutely. Which is great for me, because that's just how I operate.
Right.
Like I don't think I'll ever be the type of person who has the one thing.
Yeah, sure.
Like I feel like if I had the one thing, I'd get burnt out on it.
I'm going to stop the podcast real quick just for a second to talk about the illest thing I've ever done as a creative. And in my opinion, that was start the Black Window Cream community. Creating like an online place for creatives of all walks of life, whether you're just getting started or you've been doing this for 25 years, for everyone to be able to come into a safe space and connect with each other has just been so motivating. I see people share their ideas, provide tips and tricks. They're offering job opportunities. People are getting hired. They're connecting. They're building friendships, like real authentic friendships, by just being in this creative space together. It's such a cutthroat industry, and I feel like we're always just pitted to be against each other, to try to flex on each other all the time on social media and stuff. But this is not that. It's the exact opposite. The walls are down. We're all just with each other, like as if we were in some massive coffee shop, just shooting the shit. So if you haven't joined the community, I highly suggest you check it out. BWNC.com/join. We would love to have you in there. It's $1 for the first month. Come and say hi. We'll see you in the community. All right, let's get back to this podcast episode. But there was no like team or people that you could rely on. Like,
yeah, no, there's definitely a team, but it's like the responsibility list just gets higher and, you know, gets longer and longer. And for me, that's always been cool, because I feel like if I'm working at this thing and then I can step away from it to go do this, it gives my mind the room to like
change pace.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's not until I've gotten older now that I've been like, you know, like my mind's starting to like hyper focus on like, all right, dude, all these things that you do that I can do very quickly because I've been doing it for so long, they are gratifying and they're awesome, but the photo element thing really is
the favorite.
It's the thing that rose to the top, man. And like being on tour and
was that a full tour? Like, do you instantly go on a full Blink tour? Or was it just like one-off shit?
Oh no, I mean, well, there were one-off shows that would happen in the beginning, and you got click with the crew, click with the family, click with everybody, and then it's a very family-oriented team. It's
right.
So like to like vibe with everybody enough to get like welcomed onto tour, like it's a process. You know what I mean?
Of course. Was there any other photographers that were on the road at that time with you guys?
I mean, there's always been like photographers that would drop in and out.
Right.
Like they've never really had like a fixed photographer. And for me, it was just kind of like putting myself in the position to be like, I'm down whenever.
Yeah. Whatever you need.
And with Travis specifically, it's a matter of like working with Travis directly. Whenever he needs any photos, or sometimes we'll just be sitting around and he'd be like, hey, let's shoot something.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And it's like, so to get that level of trust was huge. To just do it long enough and do it well enough to gain that level of trust to be that person,
Shout out to that dude from Burton, by the way.
Kevin Meehan, like
plug.
the dude,
Super plug.
The dude.
Yeah.
The dude. Cause he was someone that I spoke with very like sincerely and honestly when I got hired over at Burton, where he was asking me, he's like, what do you enjoy doing? That was the interview process. He was like, what do you enjoy doing? And I'm being like, what do I enjoy doing? I'm here for a job.
Yeah, do whatever the fuck you want.
And he was like, no, but what makes you happy? And I'm like, well, I'm here for a web developer position, but what makes me really happy is photography.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, all right, cool. Well, we can utilize that here. And I was like, I've never encountered that before. Like you want me to do that? He's like, yeah, you're best at what you enjoy doing.
True.
Do what you enjoy.
That's a fucking good boss.
It's a great boss.
That's a great boss.
And to that point, Travis too, man. Like Travis is very like, hey, what do you enjoy doing? How can we do what you enjoy doing to benefit the bigger picture?
Yeah.
And it's been an awesome ride, man. I've been very, very blessed and grateful to have the trust of the Blink family and of Travis specifically to like be welcomed into his space, to be able to create with someone who constantly pushes me to be a better creative. So
how do you, if you hit the road and you're starting to work with the company, I mean, this is, what year is this, do you think? Oh
man, this is pretty early on. So like 2015, 2016 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you're starting to kick that shit into gear. Are you like trying to hone in on what it is at the company that you really want to excel at? Or are you just like kind of going with the wind? Does it become a little bit more organized? It feels like a lot of chaos at the beginning where they're just like, yo, come through, come over here, do this.
It's always chaos.
Always chaos.
I think that it didn't really start like forming any sort of structure until it had to, for lack of a better way to describe it. Like, because things would always be so momentary or would be so instant where it's like, hey, this thing is happening. And you'd have to like hustle to be there.
Right.
And just be there.
Right.
Like, and you're there. Okay. Oh, you're here. Shit. Cool. Awesome. And it's like that type of vibe where it's like nothing's really super planned. It's like, you're the guy, be there. You know what I mean? So you start to establish that relationship of being there.
Yeah.
And again, being granted the access and the opportunity to do it. And it starts to solidify itself as a job.
That's so crazy. So has it always remained like employed by him? Like, has that always been it? Like, because I mean, you shoot obviously he knows everybody.
Yeah.
So by nature, you're just around everybody.
A lot of talent, man. A lot of creative human beings.
But I mean, you're the portrait work that you have, the live elements that you have, this like documentarian look that you have, like you're dialed on all of them. But like if you go to your Instagram and just scroll, like the resume is ridiculous. But there's just everyone's there. So does it ever become something where like people learn about you, you're starting to try to get are people trying to pull you away?
It happens. Like, I mean, it happens a lot. I feel like I'm incredibly loyal one. So I feel like I think that Travis will always be home base for sure. Like that's my dude. That's my friend. That's my dude. Like forever and ever. Same thing with the Blink family. Like that's family.
Yeah.
You know, other opportunities do come across and sometimes they're cool, sometimes they're not.
Right.
I'm grateful that I get to pick and choose, which is awesome. I do enjoy shooting. So for me, it's like, it's hard to turn down an opportunity because an opportunity to shoot an artist is always like an opportunity to shoot an artist, which I'm like very grateful for. So yeah, there've been like a lot of like magazine shoots or some work with actors and stuff like that comes through that you're like, yeah, absolutely. You know, I've always been terrible at marketing myself.
Oh, really?
Because I feel like it's not something that I've always like sought out. Like, well, I need to like market myself to be this or be that. I've been so busy that it's just like, no, I'm good. I got this thing that I do.
Yeah.
And then it's not until I creatively feel the need that I start thinking about like, well,
Sure.
I should probably market myself better.
Right.
And then, you know, people, I mean, it's one of the things that, love it or hate it, Instagram has been super awesome with, you know, people do reach out and they're like, hey dude, like, love your work. Would you be interested in doing this? And it's like, yeah,
right.
That'd be great. And it's awesome to see that people take the opportunity to reach out, because for the longest time, I don't do things like this either. Like I'm a ghost.
Thank you.
And like I like pride myself in being there and not being there. Like I love truly being the fly on the wall. Like I don't like people knowing I'm in the room.
Bro, and I think that's what's so funny to me about how we got connected the first time is that I like researching the fuck out of people, and it blows my mind that having that one night that we were there and how much I tell that story all the time that I never was able to track you. Like, I don't know either if if no one gave me the info or whatever.
Right.
I was just in this whirlwind of like, that week was crazy, but like it was crazy that I didn't track you. But what's so funny is that you're around people, my friends. So my homie Andrew Sandler, you're friends with Andrew, right?
Yeah.
Like he's been doing a bunch of shit with Travis for quite a while. And so it's when I go, I'm like, dude, you guys were with each other all the time. I'm texting Andrew. I'm like, do you know Daniel? He's like, yeah, that's my boy, blah, blah, blah. I was like, the world is so fucking small. The creator community is massive, but small at the same time. But it is, I think you starting to build your social shit, if you like kind of came onto it, there's the benefits of it as far as just being able to connect and collaborate, right? Opens up the door. But it is interesting. But I think the fly on the wall aspect also is what makes people feel very confident of certain creatives to be in the space, because you shut your mouth. You know what I mean?
Like, I mean, for me, it's always been this respect factor. And I think it's the thing that I think truly shows my age, because I feel like being someone who was around pre-internet, seeing that transition into social and digital space, like there's still this very old school mentality of trust and loyalty, right? Like where first and foremost, it's like, I see a lot of hungry people out there who take their opportunities, right? See the moment, they fucking get in there. And I respect that hustle. But like I was brought up differently. And the way that I was brought up, it's like access is given, it's never taken. You know, trust is earned and loyalty is earned, right?
Right.
That's an ongoing thing. So like for me, it's like, hey, if someone is welcoming you into their space, you respect that space.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not here to be loud or to be that guy that's like, hey, everybody. But it's like, you're being trusted to be there, do the thing that you do. The
things
work,
will come.
The work gets out there and it's like sick. And it's something that I again, it's a thing that I think makes me feel the oldest, because I see kids nowadays, they're like hustlers, man. They're like hungry, and I respect the fuck out of that too.
Yeah.
So trying to find that balance between like putting yourself out there and continuing to be this like non-person, right? Which for the longest time people were like, why is your Instagram handle what it is? Like, why don't you put your name? And it's like, well, because I don't want to attach my name to the work. And they're like, why not? I'm like, because it's not about me. It's about the work.
Interesting.
And they're like, but what about you? And I'm like, what about me? Like I if my work speaks for itself, then I'm proud. And it doesn't have to have my name attached to it.
Right.
You know, and then you start to learn, you know, sure enough that the world doesn't work that way, and it's kind of crazy. But I kind of like the pace that things have been going. Because I feel like it's been ramping up over the years, but I'm able to maintain who I am as a person through the process and not get caught up in the like
social media bullshit.
Yeah. Which I feel like it's a necessary evil to an extent, because I mean I've seen it do a lot of damage to a lot of people too. And I feel like I enjoy the fact that whatever I do put out there, if it's out there, it's because I'm really proud of it. You know?
Sure.
So I'm able to maintain a very intimate connection with the stuff that I shoot that way and the subjects that I shoot that way. And for me, it's a personal quest to just become better at it.
I love that.
And again, thankful for Travis for that. Like that dude is a machine, and he's a nobody works like that, man.
That's what I was going to bring up, because your work ethic sounds like a perfect match for him.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like the ability for you to like have these full-time jobs that entail you doing multiple jobs, and then taking advantage of the weekends to go shoot skates, shoot shows, whatever. He's, you know, from what I know of him and following his career, the dude is on it. Like
on it, man.
The ability to develop artists and work on his own shit. And he literally is a fucking guest star at every show of all time. The motherfucker pops up everywhere.
I was thinking about this because I texted MGK the other day when he got his Grammy nomination. And I was thinking of something to text him, so I wanted to say congratulations. And I was thinking to myself, like, you know, I'm very fortunate to be that fly on the wall who got to see all the mental and physical work that goes into putting an album together.
Right.
And I feel like not many people get to experience that. And I'm very grateful that I do, because I'm someone who enjoys process and learning about process, right? To see an album get put together and to see everything that goes into it, the literal sweat, the literal tears, you know what I mean? Like the work that when someone gets nominated for something like that and you see how excited they are, like I wish more people would understand, like, this isn't like someone just went in there and like, here's music.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like a lot of work and a lot of hours went into like making something that all parties involved are so proud of. To be recognized for that is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. Right. And it's the part of it that, again, makes me feel fulfilled. Like I got to witness that, and that makes me feel incredibly honored that I did.
Right.
And whatever I got to capture in that process,
it's history.
It's history.
And
you get to capture history. It means something.
Some of it may never even see the light of day, but to him,
it's there.
He has the archives. He can reflect on this when he's 20 years from now, when he's looking back, if he wins, if he doesn't win, whatever, regardless.
Yeah.
Like those moments mean so much, but also for you, it's a weird thing, because I know that feeling, and I've been in those situations where you're in these rare opportunities.
Yeah.
And when you're in it, no one else will ever know what that felt like.
No.
Besides you. Maybe a few of other people in different moments, but like, and you'll never be able to explain it.
No, it's hard to explain, because people are like, your job's really cool. And it's like, my job's incredibly difficult.
And cool as fuck, but very difficult.
It's very difficult. It's like, it's my job to like keep the world spinning, right? It's like, it's my job to like do my job and not get in the way. It's my job to do my job and turn out something that everyone involved is proud of. That everyone involved, it's like, it's and to work at a pace that, I mean, the pace is the other thing, dude. And again, it's like, I've never, shooting live music will make you so wit sharp at like photography. Like, I feel like anybody who's interested in photography should
shoot the shit out of shows.
Whatever you decide to shoot, go shoot some shows. Because I mean, you have to be on your toes.
Lights are changing, moments are changing,
like composition. I mean, you're only so much in control of that.
Yeah.
And then I see that transition over to like shooting studio stuff where I'm like, I have time.
Yeah.
And by time, I mean I have a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But to me, that's an eternity. Like, I have, how much time do we got to shoot? We got 5 minutes. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
People are like, what? I'm like, dude, that's plenty of
Pouring
time.
up a coffee.
Dude, like, that's plenty of time. We'll get this done right now. And I'm grateful for people like Travis for that, because he's very like, we got this much time to do this. Let's fucking do it. Pop, get it done.
Do you feel like the progression and like, because Travis only gets more famous?
Yeah.
Right? Him living will just continue to get more famous. It's crazy, right? And like, and the way he's attached himself with another generation of musicians, and he's like really embedded in all of it.
Right.
What has been some of like the standout opportunities or moments for you, like as life progresses? I mean, obviously it's got to be it's never ending.
It's for me, honestly, like the thing that has stood out the most, even over tour. Because I mean, tour is awesome, but it's a whole different machine there, right? Being in the studio with Travis, to see his process, to see him work, to see how he works with other artists, to see how he gets what he gets out of other artists. Like the producer element to what Travis Barker is incredible.
Yeah.
And to watch him work in that space, and then to be sitting there and at the same time be like, all right, cool. And he'll go and track drums. And you're like, wait. So you're sitting in this space, you're putting together this music, you're working with these artists, and then you're also going to go track drums and switch gears like that. It's those moments that I see those similarities of the ability to switch gears and do these things and put yourself out there.
Right.
Like, I respect that, because I get it. It's like, you can do these things. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? Right. And to me, those are the moments that I think I hold to the dearest, because again, the trust factor is so high to be like, hey, you're invited into this space to witness the production of something that the world doesn't get to see. And it's gonna hit the world, and we'll see how it goes. Like the Tickets to My Downfall project with MGK is probably one of the standout ones, because here's an artist who has been known for doing one genre of music, right? And he comes to someone who is the master of breaking genre, and being a fan of the genre himself, he's like, I want to make an album like this. And it's like, dude, you came to the right guy. Like, this is the dude. And to watch that whole project from like behind the scenes, from the studio side of it, to watch it like manifest.
Yeah.
Man, I got some of the best memories I'll probably ever have of my life were like the months spent in that studio, we're again thankful to be allowed in the space.
Right.
And just to watch that come together, the ups, downs, the like everything got poured into that, and then to be like, well, gonna put this out there in the world,
upload,
and boom.
Yeah,
it's just cool to see that all parties involved felt so strongly about what they were doing and so confident about it that it was like inevitable that it would be what it ended up being.
Yeah.
And to be on the like, again, the lowest man on the totem pole, but just to fly on the wall to just witness it.
Yeah.
And like that to me, like from a documentarian standpoint, from a photographer standpoint, those moments matter more, because when I see those photos, it's not like that was a cool show.
Yeah.
A cool show is a cool show.
Yeah.
But you look at those photos and you're like, man, that was the day that this
that guitar got added to this moment.
That was the day. That was the day that this was happening. That's the day that this. I mean, like those are the moments that I feel like, to me personally, as far as an archive of photos I take, they stand out the most.
Yeah.
Like anytime I'm in the studio with Travis, that to me is like the best, because it's like you're watching something. You're capturing another creative process happening
in its purest form.
And if I can capture that in a still, I mean, like as much as I can do video stuff, I always tell people like I'm not a video guy.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like video people will hate me, because I feel like video is like, you have moving pictures. You get to capture a process in its entirety, in its truest form, right? Do that with a still image though.
Right.
To me, that's still like the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
You can capture that in a still image.
Right.
That's the money shot, right? Like
I love those moments, and I always envy the time that I get to have in those moments. And just you maybe you shoot fucking 30 images in a 12-hour session, but a lot of the times you're just sitting there soaking up shit. Some of that can't be captured, right?
It can't.
There's no way. So it's just for your ears only to enjoy the experience and watch how they come up with shit. And I always love when those photographers get to share these stories or be able to like reflect on it, because it's like Barack Obama's photographer, Pete. Damn, I can't think of. Oh man, I'm fucking his last name. Souza? Was it? Yes, Pete Souza. Dude, he's been like, shared a lot, especially during Trump's thing. He was like sharing a lot of images that were like tie into like what was happening today. But it was so crazy that just every day he's doing the exact same thing. Like we all get these opportunities, and we go with someone, and we get to ride in this experience, and to see when those experiences get to be shared with context. Yeah. It's so cool. And maybe it doesn't publicly get to like be shared with context. Right. The fact that he gets to share with context is so wild to me, right? It's fucking crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. But like when my favorite thing is like we could be off camera and we're talking about some shit, and you tell me some like real ass shit that happened because there's a common trust there. But the ability to share that is because it inspires people. It opens up doors. It gives access. I remember like you showing me like Yellow Wolf. I can't remember what it was, but I remember you showing me that picture, and you're like, bro, this is us in Nashville. And he like, maybe like streaked through the streets, or there was a tornado or something, or I don't remember what the fuck. There's random stories like that I hear from different people all the time, and I'm just like, oh, that's so cool. And I think that there's I don't know, it's just being able to have that access. It shapes your mind and your creative, and gives you opportunity to grow, because you're learning not only from your experiences, but you're in these wild moments that can develop into more things down the road and shit. And it's just always, it's special to share, But he's a different beast too. I really was trying. He followed me for a while after, I think after like I did Beyonce's tour, and I think he like followed me. I was like, yo, Travis followed me. That's fucking tight. And I remember like my first time shooting something with famous people was like one of those basketball things where like celebrities play each other or whatever. And he was walking by, and I was so nervous that to like say, I was like, hey man, can I just do like a portrait of you? He's like, yeah, sure. You know what I mean? He gave me that fucking pose, and I shot it. Was like, yes, that's fucking sick, And then he followed me or whatever, and I think I sent him that photo. Like, that's so funny you followed me, because I shot this shit like 6 years ago or whatever. He's like, oh, that's cool, bro. Like, stay in touch. And then went for this. I messaged him, but then he fucking gutted his gram, and I was gonna ask him to send me a video giving you your flowers, because I was like, that dude's so fucking humble and shit, and for you to roll with him so long, that was what I was trying to go. And then Instagram did that bullshit where it's like, can't receive messages. I was like, motherfucker, like, we've already had an exchange, bro. Like, why the fuck? Just keep the exchange open. But I always love those moments, because when someone's so loyal to somebody and someone that sticks around, like, that bond is like bigger than anyone will ever know.
Yeah.
And I always love seeing people be appreciated. I know, I'm sure you've felt it directly and never had to worry about it, but like it's always a really cool like angle to people's careers, and I don't know, it's just really special. But when you know, as you progress, obviously you've found this lane, you constantly continue to like add edge to yourself. Like where do you see yourself going? Like where do you move forward? You're turning 40, like
turning 40,
what's,
dude. Like,
what's the next steps?
I feel like I've had this this super gnarly imposter syndrome for the longest time, and I feel like as someone who grew up looking for an escape, right? Like looking for validation, looking for a sense of accomplishment. You know, I always think back to being a kid, growing up where I grew up, and skateboarding as a sense of accomplishment, and then photography being this thing that I would hope would be a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And being someone who struggled with depression and all sorts of like, you know, mental health deals over the years, there's always been that safe space that I feel like there's probably a lot of photographers who feel the same way, where it's like, here's this avenue that I get to like hyper focus on and forget about everything. And the fact that my safe space has become something that I get to do for a living is the biggest sense of accomplishment. And I mean, I was talking to Alex about this the other day. It's like the imposter syndrome is real, man. Like it's crazy to be acknowledged by your peers, to be acknowledged by other artists, people you look up to be like, hey man, like we respect and appreciate what you do. And I'm like, why? Like, I'm not doing it for that. Like, and I stopped and thought about it the other day, and I was like, I mean, for the longest time, it's been a form of therapy. Like these moments that I get to be a part of and these things I get to capture make me feel at peace. And I've never thought about it that way until I actually stopped and thought about it. And I'm like, oh, I do this because it makes me feel really, really good personally.
Yeah.
And start to allow how other people feel about it to come into play. And I do feel this immense surge of accomplishment. And it's unfortunate that it happens so much later, you know, but I feel like, you know, you learn the lesson when you do, and moving forward, I feel like there's this sense of like, you know, people appreciate what I'm able to do, and there's something to be said for that. You know, I found my pocket of the thing that makes me feel the most accomplished. I get to do it for a living. People appreciate it. I'm proud of it, and it makes me happy.
I love that.
Like, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it's like I couldn't be luckier to have landed and found that pocket, especially being a kid who grew up not knowing what tomorrow was going to be like.
Right.
And so for me, any opportunity I get to like talk to kids or talk to people who want to pursue photography, I'm like, you know, do it. It's the most accessible thing you can do is to pick up a camera, especially nowadays. You have a cell phone, you have a camera.
Yeah, true.
It's like, look at your world and find things that you can take photos of that matter to you. Like the same way that my mom was like, here's a camera, go make your own memories so that you have something that you can look at that'll make you feel a certain way. Like that's available to everybody. And if you can find a sense of peace in doing that, then you never really have a reason to feel that alone, because you have this ability to just like remember things in a positive way, right?
Yeah.
And we're fortunate to live in a time where it's super accessible and it's an open market, man.
That's so cool. Like just that's literally what your mom said. Like these are memories that we enjoyed. Like we want to remember that these were the best moments.
It's like, how was childhood? Fucked up.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
But like you look at those photo albums and what do? Oh,
yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
Those were the good times.
Like it's a powerful tool to be able to shape however fucked up something was, to twist it and be like, yeah, but I know it's easy to focus on the negative, but here's all this rad happy shit too.
Yeah.
Right?
So dope.
Like, I mean, you know, memory fades, but you know, if you have some way that you can help memorize or remember those things, I mean, dude, it's magic.
No,
it's magic. It's a time machine.
Yeah. It's a dopamine rush too. It gives you all the things you want.
Yeah. So what's next for me? I don't know, man. I feel like thankfully I get to shoot a lot. It's great. I mean, hopefully I'm get on this Blink tour. It'd be awesome to be on that one.
Oh, that'd be
so great.
That'd be awesome.
Been shooting for a couple magazines, which has been cool. Been shooting at the Forum.
Yeah.
It's been great. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to get to do the thing that I love the most, like, and the people like seek me out to do it.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for
That's
it.
so
and,
cool, bro.
and thanks to you for even getting me to. I need to get better at this.
No, what the fuck are you talking about? Yo, this was so good, bro. You're such a good storyteller.
I'm not. I don't know, man.
Yeah, you're fog again.
Right? I'm that mist in the night.
Yeah, right.
Like,
it just keeps coming back.
I just don't. I feel like I gotta like get over the whole physical.
No,
like,
it's good.
fucking,
I mean, and honestly, every single time, the whole point of this is to help the next person that's like you, that's trying to figure it out. That phone call you got with the T-But, it's the same shit. You know what I mean?
I'm so excited to one day get to meet a T-But and be like, yo.
Yeah. You keep fucking around with the Canon folks, it's probably gonna happen.
Be like, hear me out for a second. Jason Searcy, a good friend of yours, is gonna be like, oh, Jason, yeah. I'm gonna be like, dude, that phone call, man, like it meant the world to me. Like
it's crazy, right?
It meant literally a simple like 5-minute phone call, but
you probably don't even remember how many times you've done that for others, and that's the beauty of all this shit. And that's the beauty of that's one of the plus sides of social media and all the shit that comes with it is that people are influenced, and people, I don't know how many times.
Dude, it's an awesome thing. Anytime someone asks a question, I get humbled. And people are like, hey, like what lens did you use? And I'm like, oh man, I shot with this and this. And they're like, oh, cool. And I'm like,
then they went and hit order, just like you fucking did with the T-But. Isn't that crazy?
And I get the response back where they're like, hey, I bought that lens. And I'm like, oh, damn. I'm like, hey, like, cool. Like I've never really understood having that amount of voice or opinion to share. And it's only like in the past couple of, like let's say in the past year that I've really been understanding that sort of impact that as creators, a sense of responsibility that I guess we have to be fortunate enough to be at a position where we're at, right?
Hands down.
Where we can contribute to the community. And I mean, like I always looked up to Adam L. Mackay. It's like a legend.
Great guy.
Ashley Osborne, like amazing photographers who do so much for the community.
Both who have both been on the podcast, by the way.
Like go check those episodes out. Yeah. Like people who do so much for the community to like, make people continue to push and feel that it's accessible. You can do it, Yeah. And like I've always been like I've looked up to both of them for that reason too, because I see that anytime I have a downtime, I look and remember that there are my peers out there who continue to push and hustle because it is possible.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate to be where we're at.
It's the best, man. It's the best. So I appreciate you fucking giving back to it. That's the whole point. We turn this light on. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, man.
It's just to do that and constantly give back. And thank you, man. Thank you for telling your story. It's crazy. What a journey. For real, what a journey.
It's been wild, man. I called my mom the other day. I was just kind of reflecting with her, and she's like, she's like super proud. But it's just funny to think about like how a simple act, right?
Yeah.
A simple act, a true parent moment.
Yeah.
Right? Like, here's this thing that she probably was like, well, here. And it would end up,
turning to be
40 years later, you're like, here I am going
crazy,
like,
right?
Yeah, this is what I do now.
Yeah.
Like, she's stoked. And that makes me happy too.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
We, whenever we wrap podcasts, I do this thing where I make you pick a hashtag, right? So anyone that's listening has to go to your Instagram. They're going to comment on whatever, at the time you're listening to this, whatever fucking day this is or whenever this is, whatever your last post on Instagram, they're going to go and they're going to get in your comments and they're going to put the hashtag you put. They're also going to tag me at Ben Reverse World, so we both know that they got all the way through the full episode. Okay?
Gotcha.
So you got to pick a hashtag.
Damn, dude.
Also, his Instagram is fog.again. Okay.
The pressure is immense right now, man.
It's one of my favorite parts because there's some awkward silence and you think, but I can't help you, and it's one you just gotta think. Hashtag. But also remember that this show will be like years from now. People will put this fucking random ass hashtag.
Oof. All right, let's see. Let's think of a good one real quick. Man,
I know, right? God damn it! I always forget to add the little sound because I want to add like a little
clock sound or something.
No, not that one. You know what I mean?
Way to go!
It's just scary.
Your hashtag sucks. Wah, wah, wah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh man. You know what? I got a good one.
Yeah.
In memory of a really good friend that we lost suddenly in the Blink camp, Robert Ortiz, an absolute legend of a man. Who I miss every fucking day, man. In memory of Robert, hashtag Ocho.
Hashtag Ocho?
Yeah.
We have never had anyone do a tribute in a hashtag. That is fucking some real shit right there.
Yeah. And I mean, and everyone who's hearing this and anybody who sees that hashtag and be like, what's with this Ocho? It's not for me. It's for Robert.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome. Right. I love that.
Cool.
All right, yo, go do that. Bro, I appreciate you. Thank you for giving up your time. For real, this was a great episode. I really appreciate you coming through. It was
Thanks for having me,
man.
Yeah,
dude. Sheesh, we did it again. Thank you, bro. Damn. That's a dope hashtag. Woo! That's a dope hashtag. Ocho. Yo, it's Ben. I just wanted to say thank you for listening to today's episode. We have plenty of episodes that have come out in the past, and we're dropping new ones every single Sunday for season 2. So make sure to subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening to or watching on. And if you haven't joined Black Window Cream community, what you doing? It's the best community for creators on the planet Earth. Go to bwnc.com/join. We would love to see you in there. Please join. All right. See you next week.